Leonard, Cheshire, in conversation with Emma Wiggs MBE.
Hello, good evening. I'm so excited to join you this evening. My name is Selena Mills and I am your host this evening. I've been working at Leonard, Cheshire for over 6 years, and this part of my job is the favourite bit because I get to share with you what we do and who we know. So thank you for joining us this evening. Just to start with a few bits of housekeeping, you need to know that this is being recorded and it will be shared publicly afterwards. I need to let you know that there will be live captions which are available. And as you can see, we have some lovely BSL interpreters. I've got Jacqueline and Kirsty, I think. The chat function on the Zoom has been disabled, but we do have the Q&A function. And we really would encourage you to join us with any of your questions as they pop into your mind, just right away, whenever you like. And we've got a wonderful team monitoring your questions, so do not worry, we will keep an eye out. We do need to mention that lovely Claire, who is monitoring, will try and get the questions out, but please forgive us if we don't have enough time. We are going to try and run to time and closing the session at 7. So just to give you an overview of what's going to happen in the next hour, we're going to be chatting with our amazing, wonderful guest, Emma Wiggs, and our change maker, Kyle Eldridge, who is from one of our Leonard Cheshire programs. And that we're going to do for about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. Then we're going to show you a short film. And then we're going to talk to the manager and lead on our programs, Pete Donnelly, and he's going to tell us a little bit about some of the programs that we run and how we do it and what's the thinking behind it. Then we're going to let you guys loose on us. So please do come to us with your questions, and we will also obviously keep them looking at them as we go along. And we aim to close, as I said, at 7 o'clock. So let's get cracking. It is a great honor. I'm so excited about this, to introduce Emma. So Emma Wiggs, I mean, I have to say her Wikipedia entry is so long that we don't have time for that. So Emma, I'm really sorry, I'm only giving you like the mini show. Emma is 9 times world champion in para-canoe and a double Paralympic gold medalist. And she's just come back from Tokyo and the World Championships. I think her luggage had overweight because she had so many medals. And I think you are one of them, if not the most successful para-canoeist of all time. Is that right, Emma?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, and then hot off the press, she's just been nominated to be BBC Sports Personality of the Year. Is that right?
Well, I think it's actually the Times Sports Person of the Year. So equally a big platform, I think, and really amazingly, 2 of my teammates in the para-canoe team are also shortlisted. So we are really hopeful that we will get a para-canoe win. But either way, it's incredible to be nominated, and just incredible, Selena, to see para athletes up there in those sorts of lights. So it's very much out my comfort zone, but nice to fly the para-canoe flag.
Well, we are amazed and honoured to have you with us. Tell us, how are you feeling after Tokyo and the World Championships? Because you must be exhausted.
Yeah, I think exhaustion was definitely one of the feelings. I think clearly Japan is a complete different time zone and a mile away. So I think the build up, the fact that it was a 5-year cycle, not a 4-year cycle, I think actually probably added to everyone's exhaustion. But you can't come away with that overriding feeling of tiredness when you go to such an incredible country, and I just feel incredibly grateful to have had the opportunity to compete. It was so important for disability sport that those games went ahead. So yes, I think there was a bit of tiredness, but I tried to mask it and get on with the job.
Well, you look great, although I'm visually impaired, so maybe that's not a compliment, but anyway. So what somebody asked me to ask you, what is it like being on the winners podium and hearing the national anthem? Is that very hard to keep yourself together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been emotional on every podium, and I think it's getting worse the older I get. So yeah, it's an incredible feeling, and I think it's just a moment that you're able to share with the people that are there with you, but also the people at home. And for me, hearing that anthem, I still get goosebumps, just now thinking about it. So yeah, it's very special.
Oh, do you have your medals with you?
I do, because I know that this is all people come to see.
Yeah, we didn't come for you.
I've polished them especially, so they're looking quite shiny.
They look like chocolate.
But they're incredibly heavy. I mean, the thickness of them is quite extraordinary. So
amazing.
I think out of the medals that I've been lucky enough to kind of pick up, these are definitely the prettiest, I think, that we've had. So
you could wear them in your ears. You'd have one. So slightly, we were going to ask you, and in a way you've answered it just now, what's the best bit about being a Paralympian? And do you mind the distinction between Paralympian and Olympian, or do you think it's important?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the best bit, just to re-emphasize, is I find it absolutely amazing every single day that as a Paralympian I am fitter, stronger, and more able than I ever was when I was able-bodied, and that blows my mind every single day. And I feel really fortunate that parasport has given me that opportunity. Do I mind that we're different to Olympians? No, because I think we are. And I think there's often an argument that people have of let's put the games together. Well, from logistically, that's just not possible. Paralympic sport is such a huge thing now that to host one games would not be logistically possible for anybody. And actually, it's a pinnacle of able-bodied sport is the Olympics, and it's a pinnacle for athletes with disabilities to go to the Paralympics. So no, I quite like our special status, and the fact that the power of Paralympic sport is growing rather than diminishing. So I feel incredibly fortunate to have A, found it, and B, be able to to promote it and to hopefully give other people the opportunity.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, given that you come back and you're celebrated and it's brilliant, but we don't get to see the 3 or 4 years hard graft that goes before a Paralympics. So you're very successful, but when you have a setback, with a minor injury, or you don't get the medal you want, or you don't get a medal at all, how do you cope with that in your head?
I think it's it's like anything that any time that a challenge hits any of us, it kind of smacks you around the face, doesn't it? And it doesn't have to be a performance like it is in my world. It could be anyone on this call will have faced challenges, and we've all actually faced the same challenge, haven't we, in the last 18 months? And it's how we respond, I think, in those moments, like you say, that will kind of determine where we go. And I don't think there's any special ingredient or special trick or anything special about me, apart from the fact I can do an incredible wheelie. If I was seeing you all face to face, I would show you my incredible wheelie. That's special. I don't think there's anything special. I think what it is for me is it's a mindset thing. Yeah. And actually I'm learning and developing still different ways of coping with challenges and setbacks and difficulties to make me primarily a happier person, because I think happiness is hugely important. But the happiness then leads to better training. Better training leads to faster boats. So for me, in my world, it's a kind of quite a clear process. And I think the first thing we can all do with any challenge is be kind to ourselves. It's a hit, isn't it? It's a stop in your tracks. It's a smack around the face, whatever it might be. A challenge is an obstacle that we need to deal with, and the first thing we can probably do, which we probably forget, is be kind to ourselves and just give ourselves a moment to, I guess have a deep breath and think, right, okay, what's my plan now?
Well, that's actually really interestingly connected to my next question. So away from competing, what do you get out of sports and activities? Do you find, well, challenge would be the dealing with difficulties can give you confidence, but what else do you think it gives you, for example?
I mean, I just think physical activity of any kind is just absolutely crucial. I was really sporty when I was able-bodied, so I didn't actually become disabled till I was 18, and as a youngster growing up, you know, we had dogs, we were outside a lot. I've got a twin brother and an older sister, and, you know, our life was very active and outdoorsy. And I think that taught us all sorts of things. You know, it's taught you to deal with bad weather and the importance of being active and kind of living that sort of life, as well as the skills of you know, working together in a team or trying to pursue something until you master it. So it's just so important, you know, that physical activity is a part of all of our lives. And
it can be anything, right? It doesn't have to be a sport.
Absolutely, it can be anything. And I think that's the beauty of it. You know, I didn't find para canoe until I was 33. So,
wow.
you know, there's I know you didn't know I was that old, did you?
No, I didn't actually. Anyway.
So it's you know, it's finding the sport or the activity that's right for you, and that can come in all sorts of different forms. And I think the important thing is that it's accessible to everybody, and it shouldn't be that someone's disability or someone's mental health or whatever it might be should impact on their ability to access something that for me is so fundamental to our lives and our happiness, which is physical activity.
Well, you couldn't have given me a better bridge to our next guest, who really does think about these things too. I'd like to bring into the group as our guest is lovely Kyle Eldridge. Am I saying that right, Kyle?
Yes, you are indeed, Selena.
And Mr. Kyle is a change maker, a Leonard Cheshire change maker, which is an amazing group of disabled young people from across the UK, Glasgow, Swansea, Manchester and Belfast, and who basically come together through citizen reporting and local campaigning. And it's been incredibly successful. And Kyle said he wanted to come on this because he was so interested in sports, but particularly canoeing. So we thought, perfect. And I'm going to hand the microphone over to him. Just before I do that, Kyle, so what, apart from canoeing, you said, is it canoeing you're interested in and anything else?
Well, I would say I love a good game of rounders. Never gets old.
Who doesn't, Carl? Who doesn't like rounders?
I mean, as I say, I mean...
do you like being in a team or on your own?
I like being as an individual.
Okay, so you do. You're a one-man band.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you've got some questions for Emma, right?
Yeah, I do. So
go for it. Go for it. I'm going to put myself on mute, which is a very unusual moment. So hang on. I will mute myself, and it's all yours, Kyle.
Right. So my first question is, how did you get into sports in the first place? Was it before you were disabled or not?
Yeah, great question, Carl. So I was really sporty. I did every sport going, really, when I was growing up as an able-bodied teenager. Hockey was actually my main sport, but I was one of those annoying people that could turn their hand to anything, probably because I spent most of my childhood in the garden with my brother doing sports when we should have been doing homework. So yeah, I was really sporty before. And then when I became disabled at 18, I think it was a subconscious thing, but sport for me personally just took a back seat. And I still wonder now why on earth that happened. I think one thing that I'm really proud of is nowadays that wouldn't happen. Nowadays, if someone acquires a disability, you know, sport is kind of forefront and center for them to look at least. I think we've got a lot of work to do on the access to the sport, but it's there as something to strive for or have a go at. And it just didn't really cross my mind. And it was 12 years, actually. I'm a bit ashamed to say that, Carl, but it was 12 years until I found Paralympic sport. And that was through a talent identification day in the run up to London. And actually, I only went because my brother was kind of bullying me and my best friend was bullying me to go, because I just thought I'd be rubbish. And eventually I went because, you know, just to basically keep them quiet. And it was a day that was run by the British Paralympic Association, where they were looking for people with disabilities that might have sporting talent that they didn't know about. And it turns out I did all right. So yeah, I guess it's, yeah, it was from that moment that it kind of really took hold in my life.
Fantastic. I mean, I can feel the energy miles away. I could. So, second question: did getting into sport help you?
Yeah, I think it did massively help me. I think, you know, sometimes in our lives we have these moments, don't we, that can be, we talked about it earlier, that can be challenging or you know, they can be positive. And I think when I became disabled in Australia at aged 18, that clearly was quite a challenging moment. But then when I found Paralympic sport 12 years later, that was still a moment, but it was a positive one that changed my life again in a different direction. And I think it showed me what I've been missing. It showed me the things that I could still do, even though only kind of 2/3 of me work. And the biggest thing was I realized, you know, I can still get sweaty and dirty and stuck in, even if it's in a slightly different way. So yeah, I think it's taught me a huge amount, and I love the fact I'm still learning, because I'm really old now, Carl, and I'm literally, I learn stuff every day. Every day I learn stuff, and I almost think if I knew some of the stuff I know now as a younger athlete, it might have been a bit of a smoother journey, but that's for another story.
Wow. So my final question is: not all of us can be Paralympians. Where should we start, and how would you advise us?
Yeah, brilliant question. I know, I'm lucky, hey, I'm really lucky to do what I do. I think probably the first thing to do is to kind of encourage people to try anything and everything that is around and available. There's more and more websites out there that can help people. I think there's one called Parasport, where you can put in your location and it will tell you what sports clubs are around you that have some good accessibility and some disability awareness. There's still a lot more work to do, Carl, but what I would really encourage people to do is to go along to different clubs in whatever sport they choose and talk to the people there. I think communication and connection is the key to making things accessible. I think sometimes people that don't have disabilities see that there is more barriers than there maybe need to be, and sometimes we've got the answers, right? You know, me and you know what we need to be able to access something. So being brave and being bold to have those conversations, I think, would be a really good first step. But it's just so important, isn't it? You know, I think I saw something on the news today, 1.6 million people are less active than they were before COVID. And, you know, that's going to be even worse figures for the groups that we're talking about tonight. So yeah, get out there, be bold, be brave, and tell people, don't be afraid of saying to people, don't panic, I don't need 13 handrails, I just need this or this.
Yeah, yeah. Go on, Selena. Go on.
I was going to say, it's exactly what we want to talk about, actually, is sort of next on my list, was actually going to ask both of you, Emma and Kyle, if you've had any issues or barriers, and not just the handrails, like just getting to a gym or finding a gym. What kind of experiences have you both had?
I mean, I think for me, there's still that look of horror when you go into a public gym. It's like when you go into a restaurant, they see you at the chair and you can see their brain thinking, oh my gosh, the disabled toilet's full of cleaning gear. What are we going to do? Like, how are we going to fit this person in? And it's those sorts of things that I think bothered me more when I was younger. And I think the older I've got, I've thought, do you know, I'm kind of expecting some of that. And actually, I do think it's getting a bit better. But I'm kind of taking it less personally. But yeah, I think there are barriers. But I think if I look at the 12 years where I didn't do sport, it was there in smaller forms, but the barrier was me. So I think that's what I mean about, you know, seizing the opportunity in the moment and being brave to go and chat to people and go and see. And not every sport will work, but there'll be something that will. What about you, Carl?
Well, a bit of digressing from what you've just said, Emma, but maintaining the point that step out your comfort zone. It's about perception, really. It's not. I mean, in regards to non-physical disabilities, it's like autistic people like myself. We see the world as black and white, and I might seem socially outgoing, but I mean, if it's a new situation that I have to go into, like a gym or a run, etc., I have to step into the mold, and then once I enjoy something, then I get very, very competitive. But it's just like, I mean, personally now during lockdown, I mean, because my weight went up, and I felt really, really ill at the doctors actually, and I managed to get myself a checkup. And they said, "Oh, your iron, it's not a deficiency, it wasn't COVID." And they said, the doctor said, "Your blood levels are dangerously close to pre-diabetes," and it's just like the barrier is, it's just like I've had to have that big wake up call to push me into action, and it's just like. And I think that's the cost of perception, really, for me, because if I basically didn't have that disability, I would like go to the gym and all that. But I'm having circumstances push me into action, really, and that's having a disability is not my fault, but it's a casualty of my disability.
When you mean, sorry to interrupt, Carl, but I'm just really interested, when you say perception, you mean how the public perceives you or disabled people in general?
Exactly. It's just like how it's like perception of, it's just like how when I go into a social situation, like, oh my gosh, everyone's looking at me, oh my goodness, etc. It's just like, I mean, I have a mortal fear of like being judged. I do. And it's just like, I mean, I don't like going in. It's like when me public speaking, it's just like, I mean, I don't really like crowds, and it's my perception of the world, really, to say, oh, it's okay if I have a walk here and there. But I mean, it's my perception, really. I should just what do Emma says, let's like get out there. Even
it's hard though, Carl, isn't it? It's hard. I don't think it's easy, and I think, you know, possibly I feel really fortunate to be able to do what I do. It doesn't mean that I'm really super confident all the time, but I feel like we've got a role to play. You know, if we're lucky enough to wear this kit, you know, and represent our country and win these, we've got a role to play in trying to make disabilities normalized. You know, I think the strapline was impossible to ignore. You know, we've got to make the public more aware of the disabilities, of the huge range of disabilities, and how to normalize that. You know, 15% of the world have a disability. So if we, in our role and this platform that we're lucky enough to have, can use that to make people more aware, then hopefully that will filter down to mean that the perceptions that people have when someone comes along to a sporting club to have a go or to try something out are improved. And I feel like that's a real role, Carl, where we can work together, can't we? Because you can access more sport. I can maybe help just spread that kind of awareness a bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing when you have got access to sport, really, when you, I don't know, like a playing field, etc. It's like I mean, physically speaking, now when you are ill with like pre-diabetes or it's just like with any metabolic condition, it's like when you do fitness, so when you have the energy burst, you actually feel like your life is coming back to you. It really does.
That's such an accurate thing to say, Carl. I love that you said that, because I think that applies to everyone. When I was just thinking, one more question for both of you is, in terms of practical challenges. So, for example, if it was easy to go on public transport, a bus, a tube, a train, if it was easy to get into a room that has an accessible bathroom so you can go to a gym or a training center that you know has it, would those things make life easier, do you think? Or do you think they're not enough? There needs to be a sort of fundamental societal shift?
Well, yes and no, really, I would say, because it's just like, I mean, I'm not physically disabled, but I use the disabled toilet every time when I'm at university for the primary reason. It's just like, it's my safe space, it's my peace and quiet place. It is. It's just, I mean, God bless disabled toilets, but it's just I do think there needs to be a fundamental shift, because it's just like, I mean, no one in the audience, as well as the panelists, I mean, we didn't choose to have a disability, and by definition I do believe it's the state's responsibility to take care of disabled people, to basically give them a compassionate framework to build on, but also basically the vision that they can, despite the disabilities, they can lead fulfilling lives. So yes and no.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think, you know, there's a question in the chat actually that ties quite nicely in about differences for hidden disabilities opposed to visible ones, and in terms of provision. And I do think things are better than they were. But do I think there's a lot more work to do? Absolutely. You know, I think sometimes, you know, at best, a gym or a club, they might provide an accessible toilet and a ramp and think, tick, right, we've covered that box, no problem. And actually it's so much more than that, isn't it? It's the awareness, it's the ability of people that work in those environments to communicate. I think it fundamentally comes down to communication and being kind, and that is something that is a fundamental society shift. And I think we've got a great opportunity with the challenges of the last 18 months for people to be a bit more in tune with those sorts of things. And I think off the back of that, wouldn't it be great, off the back of such a disastrous pandemic, wouldn't it be great if something positive came off and actually we were all a bit kinder, a bit more aware, and you know, a bit more kind of open to how we can provide people with opportunities.
Thank you. I just absolutely love you both for saying this stuff, because I feel like we don't hear it enough. So I really, really thank you. Kyle, I'm so sorry, I'm going to cut you off a little bit here, just because I need to warn you. We're about to show you a film, and there's a huge chance that my computer will collapse, because it's just told me it's shutting down and I have no choice. So I'm going to hand the reins over after the film to Christine, who will talk to Pete Donnelly. I will probably be back, but should I not be, please do not worry, I'm still here, desperately scrabbling around with my laptop. But I'm going to ask our behind the scenes crew to show our film, which is absolutely wonderful, and it always cheers me up, which is about what we've been doing in conjunction with young disabled people and sports and activities. So if we can run that would be fantastic, and I will do my best to be back as fast as I can. If not, you will meet the lovely Christine.
Mate, so hard to stay fit at home.
I know, right?
Sick of being stuck inside.
Wanna try this with us?
Yeah.
Just download it and show me you can.
First attempt. Now show me you can.
Show me you can. Challenge accepted. Well, harder than it looks. Keep going.
Okay, beat this.
Love these moves.
Just smashed my record.
Show me you can.
Hi everyone. My name is Christine, and I'm gonna be taking over from Selena while she deals with technical difficulties. So I'm really excited that I actually get a chance to be here and talk with you guys tonight, because I love these events, and it's been so great to hear Emma and Kyle talking about their experiences and what their thoughts about, you know, where we are now and where we can get to. And I think, you know, what that video shows is it's really heartwarming, it's really cheering, it shows a lot of camaraderie and working together and urging each other on, which I think is really brilliant. And I hope demonstrates and shows all of you that with support and by helping and working to break down barriers and looking at what those are, you know, you can go a long way to achieving your goals and being able to kind of figure out what you're interested in. That particular video, we were fortunate to have support from Sport England to be able to deliver that project, but we are using support across the organization to be able to look at what we're doing in the future. And to talk about that and to talk about the importance of our sporting programs, I'm going to bring Pete Donnelly on. So thanks for being here tonight, Pete.
It's great to be here, Christine.
Pete is our national program development manager, and you've been a force in pulling together all of our youth development programs and, you know, in particular, our sport programs over the last couple of years. So I would love to hear from what you've learned from the young people we've been working with. What does sport mean for young disabled people?
I mean, the short answer is just it's a massive boost of confidence. It's a massive part of their lives. And when I say that, I'm speaking from personal and professional experience. So I had a motorbike accident when I was 19, and I started being a full-time wheelchair user then. And when I look back now, I can fully appreciate just how much sport played in the early days of my disability. Kind of going out playing wheelchair basketball, handball, athletics, swimming. There was such a big social part to that I didn't get from kind of uni life and those other social situations I was in. It's so important to be able to mix with your disabled peers. And now I've moved on from those sports, but still such a huge part of my life, whether it's kind of water skiing during the summer or when I can get away pre-COVID times to do some scuba diving, such a massive part. And it's that personal experience that has really pushed me to put more sporting activities out there for the young disabled people we support. There's so many things you can get from sport. Like I said, it's that peer support element. It's about learning those new skills in situations where people might not get the same opportunities as their non-disabled peers. They're learning those core skills, communication, teamwork, leadership, those things that they're learning on the pitch. They're able to take off it as well. And then they're getting confidence as well. And you can take that confidence from playing a sport into your everyday life. And then all of that is improving physical and mental well-being as well. Like Emma was talking about before, it's all of that activity. It's going to get you in better shape, and it does put you in better headspace as well. Yeah. The work that we do in communities, it's all about co-producing projects with the young people we work with. Mm-hmm. The great thing is, if we're working with young people around ideas that they're passionate about and they're interested in, wherever that sport might be, then they're going to buy into that more. And when they're doing something they're passionate about, then they're going to get more from it as well. So all those great outcomes are just magnified because we're working with them to design projects.
So I guess in that same vein, the past 18 months been a bit of a curveball for everyone. I think that's quite an understatement. And so what impact has the pandemic had on the young people that we're working with, but also the programs and how we've been delivering and working with them through the pandemic?
I know everyone's felt the effects of the pandemic over the last 18 months, but like most things, the disabled people and young disabled people are disproportionately affected, especially because some of these people will have had to be shielding for such a long time as well. And actually, that's where the idea for Show Me You Can came from. We wanted to show people how easy it is to get active at home. You saw the people.
Kyle was in that video.
He was showing us throwing a ball up and catching it, getting active through something that can be so simple, dancing around your living room when you're doing hula hoops, playing basketball if you've got the space, lifting tins to build yourself up to that next stage as well, getting active any way you can. So it's had a massive impact on the young disabled people we work with, and it's made the playing field even uneven for them. And at Leonard, Cheshire, with their own pan disability organisation working across so many different sectors, so community settings, policy and social care as well, working on national scale to make those bigger changes, but also really working in those more local settings as well. So because disabled people are twice as likely to be inactive, and those other factors that have been built on by the pandemic, like anxiety, the lowering of confidence, people are shielded and not able to get out to their normal social settings, and then fears of restrictions easing as well. We needed to make sure we could do what we everything possible to keep people more active. So we took all our community activities and we did our best to move them online as well, which was really popular, especially during the more strict lockdowns, where the restrictions were at their kind of peak. So we were running lots of different activities, and sport was actually one of the more popular ones, and fantastic as well, because when people were joining from home, they didn't necessarily join alone. They were able to join in with their families and friends as well, which is a brilliant part of that virtual offering that we're able to provide people now. And the consequences of not taking that proactive approach is going to have a detrimental effect on long-term well-being as well. So that's why it's so important for us to make those changes now.
So in that same vein, which I think I said at the beginning of the last question, whoops. But kind of building on that, you mentioned earlier about co-creation and working with young disabled people and doing what they're interested in, and taking all the learning we've had over the last while and all the virtual learning. What are the plans kind of moving forward with sporting programs?
Well, everything that we've done over the pandemic, and actually pre-pandemic as well, we're doing loads of sports and activities then. That just reinforces everything we know about what a key part of skill development sport can be. So moving forwards, we're going to be supporting people to get more active and stay active as well. It's a key part of our strategy. And our goal is to get everyone that we work with to take part in physical activity, try new things, getting their friends involved. And so it really becomes part of their daily lives. The work plan is to undertake is building on a number of successful projects. As I said, we've done loads of different projects across the UK, looking at loads of different sports as well. And then they've been sporting projects, also getting people physically active. So not necessarily playing a sport. It might not be everything that people are interested in, but things like going out for walks. Before my injury, I used to love fell walking as well. I think there's loads of different activities people can get involved in, ultimately just focus on people's well-being as well. So moving forward, we're looking to partner with local and national organisations and building up the number of options of these fun, exciting projects that we can offer to people, and then bringing them into our community settings and working with people to get them more active.
Well, it sounds really exciting. And it sounds like, listening to some of the challenges that Kyle talked about and the work that Emma's doing, it sounds like there's a real ongoing big need to keep going, to keep moving forward, and to keep moving that sort of needle forward across the piece.
There definitely is, and I think it's a shift in mindset that we have to work with people to make.
Yeah.
And as Emma was saying before, it's so easy to be inactive, but seeing the benefits of when you do get active, it's what we need to work with people to get to that space.
Like I said, we were so fortunate to have the support of Sport England over the last couple of years, but it certainly is the case that all the support we have towards our community programs and our sporting programs just makes the biggest difference and has such a huge impact on the lives of everyone that we support. So thanks for really highlighting that. We're actually going to be in a position to move into the Q&A section, and there's a couple questions in the chat, and some we've kind of answered and talked about, but I'd really like to open the floor, and I'll bring Emma and Kyle back in to the conversation to answer any questions that people have. So please, put them in the chat and we can go through them, or we've got a couple that people sent in beforehand, actually. So Claire, let me bring you on. Sorry. I'm now doing the spotlight as well, so I apologize.
I think you're a bit dark in the background, Claire.
I know, I've tried to change it. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Claire.
Right. So we do have some questions. We have a question from Sophia. Do you have any tips for anyone who wants to get started in any disability or Paralympic sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would head towards the Parasport website, which is a website where you can, I think it's sponsored by Toyota. So it's a website where it would highlight clubs that might already have existing options for people with different disabilities. But literally, I would try and think, Sophia, what you want to have a go at, and then look for a club or an opportunity near you and reach out and try and connect with them and see what they can do. I think it's making that initial step, which, you know, it shouldn't be harder for us, but sometimes it is. And I think we need to kind of just try and reach out and see what's out there, because, you know, I'd never had any idea that I could play volleyball or be a canoeist until I tried it. So give it a go.
What about you, Carl? What would you say?
I mean, disability sport, really. I would, from a local level, actually, I would. I don't know all the disability charities around Britain, but if you've got local disability charities, I would say ask what they do. But fundamentally, around Britain, I would ask your local authority. They do have autism. They do have special needs coordinators. They do. So if you ask them specifically what I'm looking for an organisation who deals with disability sports, they would know, because I remember when Leonard, Cheshire wanted to move into Monmouthshire, and where I live, and I just rung up my autistic coordinator once and I said, could I have the list of all of the disability organisations in Monmouthshire? And voila, she just gave me a list, and just contact them, and they would know people who engage in sports of your pick. So local authorities, contact your local authorities, and then that's it. They're very, very
good
powerful organisers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. Sorry, Christine.
Oh, and I was just going to agree and say that was a really good tip. So sorry, I just kind of spoke over it. I didn't mean to.
I have a question for Emma. What did you do, Emma, between 18 and 30 years old?
I know, it's 12 years, right? So like, what was I doing? I was actually, Penny, I was adjusting to kind of a normal life in a wheelchair compared to what I was expecting it to be. So it took me 2 years to get rehabbed to a point where I could get to university. That was my main goal, was to get to university like I'd planned. You know, I was on a gap year when I got sick. So it was always going to be carry on with my plan, regardless of what the doctors and everyone else was telling me. Get to university, do my degree, and become a PE teacher. But in the early 2000s, that was quite an odd thing to be doing if you were a wheelchair user. So it was kind of trying to, I guess, be a bit determined and a bit belligerent that I was going to do it my way, and that the doctors were wrong and I was right. And it turns out, they were probably right, that it didn't. I just believed I was going to get better, and it didn't happen. So I stuck my head down and got my degree, and then got a job and was teaching PE down in West Sussex, and I guess kind of just carrying on with my new kind of life.
I have a question here from Jodie. Emma, I am a PE teacher in an all-girls school. Do you have any suggestions for motivating and supporting our SEND students after the lockdown?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, Jodie? I think I take my hat off to, having been a teacher for about 6 years, I take my hat off to all you teachers that have dealt with the last 18 months and trying to move virtual onto a virtual platform, let alone try and teach PE and keep them active. I guess it's hard, isn't it? I think we have to, as PE teachers and teachers in general, be ready to adapt all the time to the new things that young people want to do. I think when I was at school, it was very strictly, hockey, netball, rounders, athletics. It was those sports. And I think when I was teaching, even though that was only probably 15 years later, it was very different. Kids wanted to do hip hop dance, or they wanted to do trampolining, or, there was a shift. And I guess we have to find a way post COVID to see what they want to do now. And that can be quite exhausting, I imagine. But I just think for me, what motivates me to keep active is A, how it makes me feel, and B, the fact that I know it's so important, not only for my physical health, but for my life skills and for my mental well-being. And I think if we can get young people to understand that, then hopefully they'll be kind of a bit more on side. But it's challenging, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, that pulls on to another question, or a question I have, which is, for Pete, what were the most popular activities that you had from the lockdown, from the virtual ones? Just picking up on Emma's point about finding those activities that are interesting.
So actually, because a lot of the virtual activities we did were people joining from their home, the kind of the workouts were probably the most popular. We had the bigger sessions where sometimes we get up to 90 people joining these kind of workout sessions from the front room. We had a lot of small sessions as well, but those were mainly kind of craft focused, skill focused, lots of fun activities, kind of looking at kind of poetry and different arts as well. But yeah, the most popular sessions were these big home workout sessions that people, as I said before, would join in from their home, but also get their families involved with as well.
It's so great, Pete, isn't it? Because I think sometimes from when I was a teacher, that one of the barriers is, youngsters don't want to look like sweaty and in front of their friends, in front of their peers. So actually, wouldn't it be great that, the work that you've done and the way that we move forward out of this challenging 18 months is we embrace the fact that actually, yes, virtually we can't see each other, we can't physically connect and be together, but actually that might suit quite a lot of people. My mum, age 68, did a HIIT workout online, and she would never have gone to a HIIT class, and she's not shy, and she hasn't got a disability and all the other things that could be barriers, but she just wouldn't have done that. So the fact that she was able to do it online is surely a massive sign in fluorescent lights that says, let's carry this on.
I think it's really interesting, just touching on what you and Kyle both mentioned before about the comfort zone. And people at home are in their comfort zone. So if we can get them to do something they wouldn't be comfortable in outside of their home, within their comfort zone, they feel like they've got that support network around them. It's a great opportunity, like your mum did, to try something new. Get involved.
And then it's a bug, isn't it? I mean, from your sport, it's a bug, and once we get that feel, I don't think it's that easy to lose it. I know sometimes we do, but I think once we're on this physical activity train, it kind of goes full steam ahead, doesn't it? So we've just got to find ways, I guess, to do it. And it sounds like you guys are smashing it.
Emma, I have a question. Can I ask a question? Emma, sorry, I'm so sorry. Hi, Kyle. I'm back again. I want to ask, how would you transfer the skills from maybe like a summer sport, like a paracanoeing, to a sort of more winter sport? Is there a connection there, or have you not found one yet?
Well, I mean, so we train 49 weeks of the year, sadly. So whether it's winter or summer, we're out on that lake. I think there were some particularly gruesome sessions earlier this year in the snow and the gale force winds. But I think every sport has got transferable elements, hasn't it? And it's not so much, the skills as such. Clearly volleyball is very different to canoeing. But there's nothing special about me, and I've managed to do both of those sports. So it's the way that you approach a sport. It's the way that you approach learning. That are the key skills that I think are not just, like Pete was saying, they're not just applicable to the sport. Some of the things that sport teaches us, we can apply to how we learn, how we play music, whatever it might be. It's skills that really set us up for life, and I'm just fortunate that I do it in sport. But yeah, I think if I was to approach a winter sport, I'd have some definite skills in terms of how I approach it that I could take across.
Thank
I
you.
know Kyle has got his hand raised, so I want to make sure that he gets to talk. Also, there is somebody in one of the participants, Peter Sanders, who has his hand raised. But if you would like to ask a question, you have to put it in the Q&A. I'm unable to bring you on or to speak or to interact with you directly. I'm really sorry, but if you put it in the Q&A, I'll be able to respond.
Just to tie in for a couple of questions actually in regards to the same question, making it more accessible for the PE teacher, as well as making recommendations for like to make it more inclusive for all, is the use of quiet spaces. I mean, with my non-physical disability, one of the things I really struggle is like noise, loud noises, high-pitched noises like whistling, etc. And it's sort of, if I'm in a gym with people that are shouting and all that, I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I would feel like I wouldn't want to do it. So one of the main things for non-physical disabilities is having those quiet spaces where you can just work out and you can exercise in peace, because my mind tends to travel and it tends to be more free in a quiet space. So quiet spaces I do recommend.
That's a really great point, Kyle. And I know some retailers and different businesses are starting to do that, but we haven't seen it as much, I don't think, in the sporting arenas.
Just to give you a time check, ladies and gentlemen, Christine, it's we've got about 7 minutes to go.
There are a few more questions. If can I ask a question?
Right, we've got. Yeah, go for it, Claire. We've got about 7 minutes left.
Question here for Pete. How are disabled people driving what Leonard Cheshire is doing in the future?
Something that we do really want to focus on is co-production with the people that we're supporting. And Kyle and Changemakers have been so great in showing us and helping us develop how we do this over the last year. And the video that we watched before, that was co-produced with the Changemakers. So Kyle had his starring role in there, but also the ideas behind it, the feedback when we had the kind of the drafts of the video, the name itself, actually, it came from a way that it made one of the Changemakers feel. We showed them the video, and then they told us that they wanted to show people what they could do when they watched that video. And it's so important to make sure that we're designing and delivering with people we're working with, and the disabled people we're working with. And I think that goes beyond just those activities and the kind of the videos as well. And it's what we want to do across every bit of work that we do. So we've got some exciting things coming up in the next 6 months or so that's going to see us improving communication with the disabled people we work with around building on what we do and kind of what direction we're taking.
Thanks, Pete. Another question for Emma. Are you going for Paris?
Do you know, I was asked that about 3 minutes after I won this. And yeah, I was still out of breath, and they just fire that straight at you. You know, I think Paris is obviously clearly only 3 years away now, as opposed to 4. I would love to think I could just say yes, please, and be there, but you know, there's a selection process and 3 hard winters to get through before then. But you know, for me, I feel so fortunate to be able to do what I love and to do what I do. You know, at the minute, I'm enjoying it. The boats are going fast. I believe they can get faster. So why on earth would I stop, you know, this incredible opportunity that I've got? So I did have to ask my wife's permission, but she said, well, it's only 3 years. What's wrong with you? Crack on. So, you know, we'll take it a year at a time. You know, I am 41, so there are youngsters coming for me, but as long as I'm able to keep going and keep healthy, we'll take it a year at a time and see what happens.
Amazing.
Wonderful. And we've just got one more question at the moment from Jack for Emma. What's the most important piece of advice you'd ever been given about getting into Paralympics?
Wow, great question, Jack. I think for me, probably it's around choosing your attitude for the day. You know, I think sometimes life can just, whether you've got a disability or whether you haven't, life just seems a bit hard sometimes, doesn't it? And things can annoy us and distract us and sap our energy. And actually, if we ask ourselves what our attitude is for the day, it kind of almost gives us this protective buffer that allows us to take the energy that we've got, if you think of it like a ball, and use it in a way that we want to, and not waste any of it on things that we can't control and things that don't really matter. They might seem like they matter, but they don't really matter. So I think for me, there was a real change in the training that I was able to do and my subsequent performances, and that's how I measure stuff. But most importantly, my happiness, when I really asked myself that, you know, what's my attitude? Am I going to let these small things annoy me and use my energy, or am I going to, you know, just let them be and focus in on what I can control and what I can do? So that would probably be my top tip.
Well, thank you so much. I think we kind of need to wrap up on questions now. Thank you, Claire, for expertly facilitating those. Got a couple comments that are around thank yous and good lucks for you, Emma, so we'll save them for you. I want to thank all of our special guests, Emma, Pete, and Kyle, for all of you volunteering your time to be here with us tonight. It's been a really lovely hour to spend together, and really just insightful and interesting. And I've personally really enjoyed meeting all of you and listening to you talk. I just think it's been wonderful. Just for everyone who's watching today and who's been here tonight, thank you so much for being with us. We are going to be sending around a recording of this, so you will have this, and we're going to email it to you. If there are any additional questions, feel free to get in touch. You would have had a link to be able to email Claire earlier today, so please just click on that. And we're going to be sending out a survey with just a couple of questions, just to make sure that we're giving you guys the types of events and information that you care about and you're interested in. It's meant the world to us that so many of you have showed up tonight. And alongside that, I'm actually really happy to say that we've got another event on Tuesday, so just in about 5 days from now, where we're going to be talking to Sophie Morgan about the disability employment gap and how lockdown has affected that. So that's another event that you are able to sign up for free, and there'll be a link to that in the email that follows up this event too. And look at that, it's about 1 minute to go. So pretty close to on time.
Expertly timed, Christine.
I mean, I cannot take the credit for that. That was definitely Neil and Selena and everyone else who did all the work around this. And
what a brilliant job the guys have done with the sign language as well. You know, what a phenomenal feat to try and literally sign everything that we're waffling about. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Phenomenal.
And I apologize, I lost my laptop died, but thank you, Christine, for carrying on valiantly.
Well, you know, we get there. It's teamwork. So that brings our event to a close. So thank you all very much for being here, and thank you for coming tonight. And goodbye.
Leonard, Cheshire. Find out more at leonardcheshire.org.